big story developing now, potentially explosive story from the U.S. Navy. NBC News learning that the Navy has launched an investigation into videos with sexually explicit content that were taken aboard an aircraft carrier. NBC's Pentagon correspondent Jim Miklaszewski joins me now on the telephone with more on this. So, Jim, give us the details. This concerning the USS Enterprise.
That's right, Thomas. These videos were produced by the crew while on deployments, 6 months at a time. These crews are pent up, and they've got to let off steam somehow. So aboard the Enterprise, they took these videos about 4 or 5 years ago. It's a series of videos, and they're not unusual aboard ship. However, in this case, it's believed by senior Navy officials that many of these videos crossed a line. They were crude, tasteless. Some portrayed nude women in a shower. Others extremely crude, profane language, and then some even mimicking personal sexual conduct. So in this case, Navy officials have launched this investigation primarily for 2 reasons. One, who made these videos, and do they deserve to be punished? Now, one of the other questions, however, is that 4 or 5 years ago when these videos first surfaced, senior Navy officials were informed of these videos, but took no formal action, reportedly, against any of those involved. So that's part of this new investigation. Why wasn't formal action taken against some of those involved? Now, the tragedy here, according to some Navy officials, is that it involves the commander of the Enterprise, Captain P.Honors, who at the time was the executive officer of the Enterprise, who by all other accounts has a pretty stellar career. Otherwise, it would be difficult for him to become commander of an aircraft carrier. But now, since these videos have been released to the public and this investigation has been launched, there are questions. Number one, whether he's going to be in command of the Enterprise when it deploys overseas in a few weeks. And number two, will this derail his career altogether?
Mick, explain to all of us, though, because if he was the executive officer and people are saying that he knew about this activity, why then would he be elevated to commanding officer as recently as spring of this year?
Well, that's one of the questions. In fact, not only was Honors, Captain Honors, the executive officer of the Enterprise, but he was personally involved in the making of these videos. He was the centerfold, if you will, of many of these activities in this video, which are questionable and to many, quite frankly, offensive. So the question is, it only appears, and as some Navy officials said, you can only speculate at this point, his career was so stellar at that point that senior naval officials were able to overlook this transgression because they had what they considered to be a very capable, commendable commander who deserves to be promoted despite this activity. And that, again, Thomas, is going to be part of this investigation. And we have to put this in context. All the services put together these kind of homemade videos, again, to blow off steam. But unfortunately, senior Navy officials that I've talked to today acknowledge that these videos clearly cross a morals line.
Okay, so blowing off steam, maybe a morale booster in terms for people on board, again, something comical, but do we need to stress that this was all volunteer participation? I mean, we're talking about women in the showers. Would any of these people have been ordered to participate or strictly voluntary?
And to be quite clear, there were no sexual acts. You did see no nudity in any of these videos. Apparently, much of it was simulated or made to appear as such, or in many cases was voluntarily blotted out in terms of during the production of the video itself. But, there's no indication, Navy officials I've talked to, no indication that anybody was forced into this against their will. And quite frankly, as you view the videos, it appears that everyone is not only a willing but eager participant.
And Mick, you said there's a scheduled deployment coming up, correct?
There is a scheduled deployment, but Navy officials are pretty confident and indicate that Captain Honors will not likely be at the helm of the Enterprise when it leaves port down there in Norfolk in a few weeks.
Certainly a developing story that we'll continue to follow. Mick, thanks so much.
Okay.